Okay, tonight we're going to talk about berberine. Now, who in here has taken berberine? A couple, okay. So, berberine, I'm getting this information from Sunshine Sharing. Y'all have a copy of this. This is Stephen Horn's publications. I love these publications because it gives us up-to-date, accurate information on what's going on these different subjects. I am not going to read the whole thing, but y'all have a copy of it, so check it out totally when you get home. But there has, have you ever had anybody say to you, well, I'm not going to take those herbs. They haven't been clinically studied or scientifically studied. Well, berberine has been studied a whole bunch. So we're going to go over some of this information. As it says in the second paragraph, over 2,800 studies have been conducted on berberine. That's a whole bunch of studies, right? Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of this has been in the last 5 years. And it's showing that berberine has antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and immune-enhancing properties. And a lot of us could use some of that going on. So we're going to get into more of the specifics on how it works. Now, in that first paragraph, it gets into AMPK, and it tells you those long words that I can't pronounce that stands for, but it's an enzyme inside the body cells that functions like a metabolic master switch by regulating biological activities that normalize lipid, glucose, and energy imbalances. So berberine helps to activate this enzyme. Now, when Nature's Sunshine first came out with berberine, they gave a few people berberine. They sent it to them and let them try it and see how their body responds, fill out information about it, and send it back. And that was one of their little test studies. And I happen to have been on that test study, and my daughter. Now, she and I both have had blood sugar issues in the past, going up and down. And so I thought it would be a good thing. At that time, I was pretty balanced with my blood sugar, but she was staying too low a lot. And so she told me she could really tell a difference when she took it. Now, she's young and I'm older, but so I thought that was a good test on a person in their second 50 years and a person in their high teenage years. I thought that was a good test. So we both saw improvement with it. And it does, for me, I could notice it did keep me from craving sweet things because it was keeping things steady as she goes. So if you have low blood sugar, it's not going to make your blood sugar be even lower than that, is what I'm trying to say to you. Okay, so in other words, berberine turns idle cells on, thereby helping them to use glucose more efficiently. In fact, the research has studied that suggested that berberine can produce health benefits similar to the benefits of engaging the regular exercise and restricting calorie intake, to foundational principles that a lot of people do for health and longevity. Now, it doesn't mean when you take berberine you don't need to exercise or eat right, but it does really help with those things. And if you added eating right and exercise to it, excellent. So berberine also supports healthy gut functions and helps to combat endotoxins. High carbohydrate diets have been shown to alter the microflora in the gut. So this is one of those things that can be very helpful as well. So flip over, we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty here. So have y'all ever heard the term metabolic syndrome and diabetes? You heard the syndrome X. Have you heard insulin resistant? We got all these words that didn't really used to be out there, at least I'd never heard of them. So in 2008, the journal Metabolism reported the results of 2 3-month human trials in which patients diagnosed with type 2 diabetes were treated with either berberine, taken 3 times a day, or metformin. Y'all know what metformin is? That's a pharmaceutical, and it's quite commonly given for blood sugar, right? I hear it quite often. The study showed that berberine reduced blood glucose levels similarly to the drug, and also reduced hemoglobin, which A1C. Y'all ever gone to the doctor and you get your blood sugar checked, but they'll also check your A1C number, and they really pay more attention to that nowadays than ever before. And that's another important marker for glucose metabolism. And so it goes into some other studies here, but this research confirms that one of the traditional uses of berberine-rich herb called golden seal. Y'all ever heard of golden seal? Now, it's not berberine, but it's berberine rich. It's that goldy color that you'll see a lot of different herbs have. Golden seal has historically been used to lower blood sugar levels in type 2 diabetes. It is an ingredient in the traditional anti-diabetic formula, which is pro-pancreas and PBS. These are formulas Nature Sunshine has. And another one is HYC. Now, we talked about HYC last week when we were studying the Chinese herbs. That was one of those that also helps the pancreas. Inflammation. Chronic inflammation lies at the heart of many different degenerative diseases, and berberine has been shown to have anti-inflammatory action. Now, have y'all ever heard the term COX-2 inhibitor? Mm-hmm. And we hear that term a lot having to do with certain pharmaceuticals. Think inflammation and think about, what's the one I'm trying to think of?
Yep.
No, there's a medicine that is a COX-2 inhibitor, and it's not on my brain this second. A lot of people take it when they have pain and arthritis and different things like that. And right this second, it's not in my brain. It'll come to me in a second.
Like oxycodone or something?
No, it's not that, but I'll think of it in a second. I'll think of it in a minute. But anyway, this berberine also acts as a COX-2 inhibitor, protein inhibitor, without reducing enzyme activity.
Huh.
Celebrex. There we go. Came to my mind. It took a minute. And y'all heard of people.
They took that off the market for a while and put it back on.
Mm-hmm. But it falls into that same
or something.
Falls into that same category. Yep. And then we do have some formulas that are blends. One of them is called Relief Formula. One is called IFC. Now, we talked about IF-C last week because that's one of the Chinese herbs. It's a blend that also has a lot of these berberine-like golden herbs that we were talking about. And you might want to read on these. So the things that are in dark color on your sheet, if you go to my website, rhondadowell.com, click on product list, read on these individually. Now, you don't need all this stuff, but when you read about them, one might go ding, ding, ding. That helps me in a whole bunch of things. Now, heart health. Research has shown that berberine may be beneficial for heart health. In 2013, a report published in the journal Planta Medica indicates that berberine may help reduce elevated cholesterol levels. In their analysts analyzing 11 previously published clinical trials with a total of 874 participants, the report authors determined that berberine may reduce total cholesterol, LDL, the bad, while increasing the HDL, the good cholesterol. Berberine was also found to decrease triglycerides, yay, and it's been shown to reduce another different kinds of protein, which is the risk factor for heart disease, by 15%. So it's definitely something to consider. Now, it also gets into how it affects your essential fatty acid. It gets in how it affects blood pressure. So at the bottom here, it talks about GCX. That is a combination of herbs that also has that golden seal as an ingredient. And you may want to look at that as nourishing the heart. And it's also known to affect blood pressure in a positive way. Now, there is tons of research about berberine and cancer. Research galore. So you might go on the internet, check it out. One thing don't make something like that go away, right? No magic pill. But putting dietary things, putting what you're eating, then adding the proper supplements, it could definitely be beneficial. One of the main things to look at is some of these words, I can't ever pronounce them, but it can target and inhibit anti-cancer with the berberine, and it gets specific to the NF-kappa-B. How would you say?
Kappa B.
Kappa B. Okay. That's one of the proteins in our cells acting as a key switch to develop and the progression of inflammation and cancer. So it's definitely something to look at. It acts as a radio sensor of tumor cells without affecting the normal cells. So if we can go in there and affect the cancer cells and not the good cells, that is a really good thing. And it inhibits the tendency of cancer cells to become drug resistant over time by inhibiting the cellular membrane protein that pumps drugs out of the cells. When berberine is taken with tamoxifen and other chemotherapy drugs, studies show that they work synergistically against the cancer cells. Berberine also inhibits the development of cancer from carcinogenic exposure. So one of those things it's talking about right there is radiation. So if you have to have radiation, that is your choice. But if you would like to protect the good cells, yeah, the radiation will still affect the bad cells. But if you want to protect the good cells, you might take berberine during that time frame. Totally up to you. Weight loss. It shows a picture of barberry. That is an herb that we have. And at least 2 studies have examined the effects of berberine on body weight. In a 12-week study on obese individuals, 500 milligrams taken 3 times a day caused about 5 pounds of weight loss on average. Now you may say, well, that ain't a lot. I need to lose a whole lot more than 5 pounds. But if you take something over a short period of time, that's one thing. But if you do it over a long period of time, what if you lost a pound a week? Now you go, well, that ain't much. But how many weeks are there in a year? 52. Would you be excited about losing 52 pounds in a year? I think all of us would say, yeah. So slow but steady is a really good thing to do. And it don't come back if you do slow but steady. Okay. Because of berberine's ability to inhibit fat storage and improve the function of hormones such as insulin, leptin, and I can't pronounce that word, but many researchers have concluded that berberine has potential application when reducing visceral fat and controlling central obesity. What is visceral fat? That's fat around your organs, which I might say right here. Yes. Our organs are fat. Okay. So gut health and infections. Studies show that berberine can restructure the balance of mitochondria in the gut, thereby alleviating inflammation and preventing insulin resistance and obesity. So it's got all kind of studies about rats that they fed and, you know, how the mitochondria responded. So it's something to consider, as we have good bacteria, we have bad bacteria. They're both supposed to be in the gut, but the good should be greater than the bad by 1,000,000 to 1 ratio. How many people in their life have taken antibiotics? Most people. So a lot of times people have taken antibiotics 2 or 3 times a year. Do you know anybody?
Yeah.
I ask everybody that question when they're in my consult sheet. I had 2 or 3 people today. 2 or 3 times a year they've taken antibiotics. So a good amount of that good bacteria is lowered, and 80% of our immune system's in our gut. So it very much will affect us. Now here's some herbs that are sources of berberine. We have a product called berberine, but here's some sources. Golden seal. Then we have a product called echinacea golden seal in a liquid. We have a formula called INX. We have sinus support, which also has golden seal in it. We have golden salve, which is topical. We also have PLS2, and we also have black ointment, again, topical, that has golden seal in it. So topical, like, y'all know I have boo-boos when I have my car wreck. That's why I'm wearing this little monitor right here now. But when I had my boo-boos, I had a boo-boo here, I had a boo-boo here. I had boo-boos everywhere, on my feet, on my hands. I had boo-boos everywhere from my car accident that I just had. It was a little over a month ago. And I put those salves and the Silver Shield gel and all that on my boo-boos because I didn't want them to get infected. So you know how you look at a cut, and if it starts getting really red, you know that infection might start getting there. Well, myself, would use the golden salve on that to keep it from getting infected, and it makes all the difference in the world. I used to use it for breast cream when I nursed. I used to use it on my kids if they came in and had scrapes or whatever. I just put the golden salve on it. We never had to do any, Neosporin cream or whatever it is. We just didn't use stuff like that. That was our boo-boo cream. Okay, now, Oregon grape. I love Oregon grape. We have it in a liquid form. Oregon grape, woo, it's been used for all kinds of things, but it can be used instead of golden seal if you say, well, I'm not going to do golden seal for whatever reason you decide not to. It also has a good response in the lymphatic system. It stimulates bile to flow, and that can be helpful with a lot of different liver conditions. It can be external or internal for skin stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people have acne, boils, eczema, and it can also be used to reduce the itching, if you know somebody having itching from all that stuff. So Oregon grape is an excellent tool in a liquid form. So that means you can also give it to young ones and animals. Hear me, animals can work on all this stuff just like we can. And then also another one to look at is all cell detox, BPX, and the gallbladder formula. I work with so many people that are having gallbladder symptoms that they don't know that. They don't know that that's actually what's going on. Now, you can wait until you get in a crisis and have to have your gallbladder removed. You can do that if you want to. But most of the time, people are having symptoms before, and if they just wanted to cleanse that part of the body and it's going to filter out its toxins through the colon, that'd be a better way to go. Now, barberry. Now, we talked about bayberry earlier. Now we're talking about barberry. Barberry is a source of the berberine. Barberry is antifungal and increases bile production. It's commonly used as a blood purifier. It's an ingredient in the formula that we have called LIVJ, and we also have it in LB extract, which is liquid. Now, in 2 formulas, we also have some berberine. IFC, which we talked about earlier, and then the Chinese mood elevator. We talked about that last week, as well as the Chinese stress relief. So it's still going to have that anti-inflammatory and will help as an alternative to, if you say, I can't take this pharmaceuticals because I have too many side effects, it's your alternative. It's up to you to choose. Now, it's mentioning some of these different barks, which also have anti-inflammatory categories, and a lot of people are going to use this in the situation of jaundice, arthritis, urinary tract infections, skin issues, especially eczema, and it's even helpful with the blood sugar that we're talking about. So the IFC, especially HYC. HYC is, especially if you're dry. So if you have dry skin, dry eyes, dry cough, you're too dry, then HYC. Also, IFC, anti-inflammatory, and then our nature's cortisol. I was checking someone earlier about the nature's cortisol. If you have a lot of stress in your life, your adrenal glands might be producing more cortisol than it needs to, and you might gain weight in the trunk of your body, and the nature's cortisol would help lower that to normal. And then we also have a product called Relief Formula, which is a blend. And then we do have the literal product called Berberine, IR, and that is something that I tested out myself. And you may use that whether you've been told you have normal blood sugar, but you say, but both my parents are diabetic and I don't want to go there. Or whether you've been told you're borderline diabetic, or you've been told you got type 2 diabetes or whatever it be. Any of those situations. Or there are people, do y'all know what PCOS is? Polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's quite common in our younger generation, nowadays, especially a lot of these 30-year-olds. There's symptoms that go with that, but many times they're put on metformin, the drug, and they don't have diabetes, but they're insulin resistant. So this could be used as an alternative there. So it's listed right here on this last page, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And unfortunately, I see more and more and more people with that. I think the reason has a lot to do with those xenoestrogens, cows and chickens given hormones and antibiotics and the cleaning products. And a lot of people have no idea that they should not touch chemicals. The one thing I use as an example all the time are those stupid Clorox wipes. I get so mad at those things because they look like a tissue. And people touch tissue, but it has Clorox in it. Would you stick your hand in the bottle of Clorox? No. But you'll touch that Clorox wipe and you'll give it to a 6-year-old to wipe the desk. Stop doing that. That makes no sense. They need to wear gloves if they got touch that because it's a chemical. Would you put it in your mouth and start chewing on it? No, it's a chemical. Don't touch it with your bare hands. So, Now, Berberine is available. Like I said, it's 335 milligrams, and a lot of people will take a capsule 3 times a day, but you can do a little more, a little less, depending on what you're working on. Teenagers can use it as well as adults. It's really not recommended for pregnant and lactating women as well as infants, okay? It may be beneficial for both the GI and the urinary tract, balancing the gut microflora, stimulating the liver function, reducing blood sugar and lipid levels, as well as improving general health. So it might be something that you check out, read about, go to my website, click on product list, go to B for Berberine, and any of these other things we talked about. But the key, as we discussed in here, is inflammation. So think about anti-inflammatory food. Before we started this YouTube, we were talking about sweeteners, and a lot of those artificial sweeteners and white sugar and all that will cause inflammation in the body. So you're trying to get rid of the dietary things that cause inflammation, and then we have anti-inflammatories too. All right, we're going to cut YouTube off. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. RhondaDial.com. Call the office at 205-733-7000 if you need me. Be glad to help.